God always has structure and order to what he commands and demands of us. And so there was a certain way that they were supposed to carry the glory. And as we reflect and look at the church today, the question would be, how are we carrying God's glory? We're talking about we're in pursuit of it. But if we're going to be in pursuit of it, we must examine how will we carry it. If God gives you that extraordinary anointing to lay hands on the sick and the sick recovers, the question on this Lord's Day is, how will you handle it? If God allows you to step into the sanctuary of God and open up your mouth and begin to proclaim his word to the point that people's lives are changed, the question is, how will you handle it? God has a standard. God has a requirement. And so they're there and they're carrying the ark and they're having this major celebration. The text says that they're blowing trumpets and sistrums and shaking tambourines and just making some noise and having a show of celebration. We have the glory of God and we are carrying it back into the place where we live. Can you imagine the excitement that they felt? Can you imagine the excitement that was exuberating from each of them, the smiles that were on their faces, and David is dancing and twirling, and we're taking the glory back to the house of God. We're putting things back in order. Yes, we have been blessed. We've had some wonderful things happen, but there's been no glory, and today the glory is coming back. And so they're celebrating and they're excited, and the text says that all of a sudden, the ox stumbles. And when the ox stumbles, the text says that Uzzah reaches out his hand to protect the glory. That Uzzah reaches out his hands to make sure that the glory doesn't drop to the ground. But God, wasn't that a good thing? He didn't want your glory. He didn't want your presence to fall to the ground. So he reached out his hand to catch it. Can I tell you, church, that God is in control, and that he sees and he knows and that he knew what was going to happen in the text, but God had already given specific instructions as to how the glory has to be handled. And so I said that to say to you on this Lord's Day that you don't ever have to feel like you need to play God, and if you see things getting out of control and you see things getting out of hand and thinking that I need to step in here and fix this thing myself because I got to protect God's interest. God don't need you to protect his interest because he is the great I am. And if something is going disarray as it relates to the glory, you've got to know that God is big enough and bad enough to fix it himself. He can fix it. He can fix it. And so he reaches over and he grabs it. And the text says that he falls dead. What is the example in this text? To a 21st century church that is in pursuit of God's glory, God is saying, I have a standard that I am requiring, and I am allowing you, the church, look at your neighbor and say, that's you, the opportunity and the privilege to carry my glory. But what I need you, the church, to understand is that if you, for 1 second, think that you can carry my glory and carry my anointing and live any kind of way and do anything that you want to do and think that I am still going to be your God and that I am still going to allow you to carry my glory. Not so. I had a standard back then, and my standard was holiness, and God says to a 21st century group of believers today, my standard is the same.